Welcome back to the Gun Collective podcast. My name is John Patton, and boys and girls, we've got yet another amazing guest. We do this every week. I bring in somebody that's freaking rad, and you guys are not going to be disappointed. I'm telling you the absolute truth here. But first, we got to talk about our sponsors. We have to do it. We got Camorado, that's CAMORADO.com. Use the code TGC and you'll get yourself a little discount. My good friend Sean Heron, you guys have heard his voice all over the FRN network, the Firearms Radio Network. He is the inventor, the designer of Camorado, and our signature color is called Sea Smoke. It's got a blue, like oceany type theme. If you're into that, go get it. Otherwise, they've got all kinds of different colors that you will love. I promise you, there is something that fits your style and your area of the country. Go check it out, Camorado.com. Use code TGC. And the same code works over at Vertx. It's VERTX.com. And they got some of the best bags out there. I absolutely love my Ready Pack. I think it's one of the best bags out there. It does not look like your standard, typical Molly-covered nonsense. And it's comfortable to wear all day, every day. I do it all the time. I travel with their luggage. I love their stuff. No bullshit. I'm telling you the truth. Use the code TGC. You'll get at least 15% off. Now, my guest is somebody who has destroyed one of my pistols. He has absolutely destroyed it, and now all it does is explode every time I fire it. This is Vinny from Monsoon Tactical. Vinny, how are you, buddy?
Good, John. How are you, man?
I am outstanding. I'm fucking pumped you're here.
Yeah, dude. I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to be here. The podcasting space is a space that I like to be in as much as I can whenever anyone asks. So I appreciate you extending the hand to come out on your show and your platform and be able to be in front of your audience. So appreciate it, man.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, you've got the voice for it. You and I could like tag team a radio show at this point.
Yeah, maybe some future TGC stuff.
Dude, that'd be fun. I'm down for that.
We can commentate things.
I don't know that we could, because it would just be curse words and horrible shit the whole time.
Yeah.
Just talking shit on Bosco sticks. If you shout out to anyone that knows what a Bosco stick is, I had never heard of it until, what was it, like 6 months ago?
Whenever we were all together in Virginia. So what was that?
No. This was after. It was on my way home from, or on my way to GunCon. It was one or the other, because we were in. It was after the thing in Chicago. The gun camp thing. Remember, we all went out to dinner.
Gun camp. That's right. Yeah. Okay. I have my things mixed up. Yeah, that was in Chicago. Yeah, that was about 6 months ago ish when you just finally heard about the great Bosco stick of 1998.
These guys were harassing the shit out. There's like a whole group of people being like, "What do you mean you don't know what that is?"
Yeah. Well, you're from a part of the country where I don't think it was really a thing, but
we're also from the place where all the good food is created, like within a couple hours of where I live. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm very spoiled when it comes to that. So Monsoon Tactical is your company, and you give the like sort of 30-second elevator pitch for the people that don't understand what that is.
Yeah, man. So it's the same kind of formula that you've seen throughout the time. You probably are one of the guys that has definitely seen it, but we're a third-party customization shop mainly for pistols, mainly right now. But anything gun-related, we can try to squeak out as much performance and obviously the aesthetic side of thing that we can. So, like in a nutshell, we make your OEM gun custom. Because not everyone can afford true custom guns, so that we try to let the little guy or the middleman or the middle guy, your average working class guy, be able to kind of make their gun their own in whichever way that they can, right? So that's what we do. We do modifications and customization in our style, but also we're very performance driven. Everyone at Monsoon can shoot. And a lot of the innovation is driven from what we can squeak out of the gun while keeping it as reliable as possible, or in your case, just making it as obnoxious as possible. we like playing both ends of the spectrum. If it makes no sense, to the normal person, we're all about it.
Yeah.
But at the
And that's
same
why we're
time,
friends.
yeah, but at the same time, for the most part, we're trying to keep the guns, functioning, accurate, all that stuff while looking stellar. So that's what
So
we do.
for context out there, they took my M&P 10 mil, the M&P pistol, and I called it the Dragon Mod. Does it have an actual name?
No, I mean, whatever you wanted to call it is whatever it's going to be named. So
It's basically got 10, I think it's 10 holes
yep.
down the slot, or in the barrel, and then a slot in the slide. And it just, being that it's a 10 mil, it breathes fire about 4 or 5 feet out of the top of the gun. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's the loudest thing ever. It was never meant to be anything but an exploration into fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I think I was like, make it stupid. Something like that is what I said to you. And you successful. It's freaking awesome. We did a video on it if anybody wants to watch it.
Yeah, that was really cool to see, especially with your guys' high speed. We did a little bit of as much as we could, ballistically speaking. It's creeping below what a 10 millimeter is supposed to do, right?
Right.
But it's still probably not gonna not hurt something, right? As far as if you're shooting it at a 4-legged critter or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But it definitely is obnoxious. The fireball that's coming off of that thing, and it makes the 10 mil kind of shoot like a 40 cal, if I had to kind of put it that way. But in all good fun too. Is it practical? I don't know, but
no,
I don't think
there's no way.
The point. No, it wasn't really the point. So there's better ways to kind of utilize 10 millimeter gas. A comp would be the better choice for a practical purpose, right?
Yeah. But I mean, people should know that, like, I've got a He-Man magazine over my head behind me here in this video. So like, people hopefully understand that I have enough of the practical guns that it's time to start fucking with the stuff that's not practical.
Yeah.
I think that's more fun half the time.
And it doesn't have, I think you're seeing it more.
What do you mean by
that? Where people are taking a firearm and kind of just being a little ridiculous with it.
Can you give me an example besides that 10 mil?
So
like what would you consider a bit ridiculous?
I don't know his YouTube handle 100%, but it's like Sass something. I think Cody, his first name's Cody. I think last name Clury or something like that.
Oh, Sass 110 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's taking M1 Grands and putting red dots and PEC 15s and suppressors, stuff like that. And we've done stuff like that too. We've cut red dots on 1903 pocket pistol, hammerless pistols and stuff. We're actually doing another one for us that's going to be more over the top. So what I mean is, like, there are more people that are willing to have fun with the gun, understanding like this serves no practical, tactical purpose for any kind of self-defense tool or whatever you want to call it. I'm just doing this because I want to do it, and I know I can do it. And if it pisses people off, so be it. Some people like to watch the world burn, like me. And I'm okay with it because I understand, like, I can separate, hey, I'm having fun, I don't care. And I also have tools that are set aside for what they're actually used for. So, and the 10 millimeter was kind of one of those, let's make it unpractical, but still functional, right?
Yeah, it still works great.
Yeah.
Like we lost a few feet per second. We lost a few, but I mean, it still thumps. It's still a 10 mil, like rock and roll, dude. I love it. I want to try and understand this sort of exploration of ridiculous, because one of the things that you guys are very, very good at is like the over the top Cerakote stuff. Yep. And that sort of adds to the flavor of what you're doing. Like I call it the Borderlands style, or like a cell shaded look.
Yeah.
I've seen you do a bunch of that. Is that something that you set out to do, or is just like, screw it, we'll try it? How did that start?
So for me, for the longest time, it always made me mad when I first started traveling through the industry doing what we're doing, people would call me like an artist, right? And that kind of I kind of didn't like that
Why not?
for a little while. I don't know. I really didn't. I kind of felt like at the time my mindset was a little more switched towards the practical application, tactical
Mhm.
EDC carry kind of guy, and then I started venturing more into that competition space and started loosening up more and understanding the different variations of guns and stuff that are out there. Probably 3, 4-ish years ago, I actually accepted the term artist, right? And I do have a background in that from a very young age to where I am now. I'm very art driven.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So um, I try to pull inspirations outside of the gun industry. And the cell shading, initial D, manga,
Oh,
paint
yeah, yeah.
job has been very popular in the car scene. Um, that's where I first seen it, and I was like, I want to do that to a gun, and I need to figure out how to do it in such a way that it's actually going to work, right? Because automotive application, they're using, different kinds of paints. They can get away with it. Cerakoting and stuff in the gun world, completely different. So a
Right?
little trial and error. Some of the process is the same based off of the research that I did. And then we kind of started nailing the look, so to speak, um, and I think we're one of the fewer shops that started doing it more mainstream. Don't
I've
know if
seen
I'm.
I've seen a couple people try and do it.
Mhm.
Some more successful than others, but every time I see it, I'm like, well, Vinny's the guy that started that.
Yeah, and I don't know. Again, we can only speculate so much. I try to be as humble as possible, but there are points and times that I'm thinking, right, that we kind of try to set some standards in the industry or push the
Sure.
industry in a different direction, at least for what we're doing. So, um, I definitely think that when we did the initial D or shading, fuck, say that twice, um, style of paint job on a gun, we started to see it more and more.
Well,
But
sure,
there's
sure.
definitely some early posts of when we first did it and dropped it, and then the next thing you know, there's a lot of other people figuring it out.
I
So,
mean, since I did that stupid rainbow gun, I've seen a bunch of different iterations like that.
mhm.
I've seen copies of that in Call of Duty. I mean, that was the direction I gave the guy that did the Cerakote
Yep.
was I want it to be bright and offensive.
Mhm.
And I called him and I was like, "All right, how'd it go, man?" And he said, "It looks like a gay pride parade got run over by a Skittles truck." And
Perfect.
yeah, exactly. I was like, "Nailed it. Done. Cool."
Yeah.
Every part on that gun is a different color, and I think you're the type of person to appreciate that sort of
Mhm.
shenanigan.
Yeah.
Um, when you go through these processes, like where do you find inspiration? You said initial D, but like what other kind of things are you pulling from? Because I've seen a bunch of your stuff, and it's all over the place, all amazing style, but just very different.
Yeah. So, like I said, when kind of going into I never accepted the artist term up until recently, and pulling inspiration or something from like one thing that I'm really working on is another thing that I saw in the automotive world, kind of like that retro paneling paint that I want to pull off. Like I literally get inspiration from everything and anything. It could
What
be a
what do you mean by the retro paneling? Like the old VW stuff?
no, like you saw a lot of it on like square body trucks back in
Oh,
like
that gradient?
yeah.
Oh, dude, that would be gnarly if you can make that work.
Yeah, so like how it would be like a base color of like black or
Yep.
blue, and then the body panels would be kind of outlined, and then there'd be this gradient of like orange and
It's like a sunset usually.
yeah, or they've seen blues and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
stuff. So I saw that because like again, everything comes around full circle no matter what industry it is. All of these newer trucks are coming out with these like retro paint jobs.
Sure.
And so I can literally get inspiration from a freaking bottle of water if something strikes me the right way. And that's not just to say also it's not only just me coming up with stuff like that. I got another guy who's very talented in the Cerakote space too, that's doing a lot of the work. So like you
Oh
said,
yeah.
there's and his name's Taylor. Um you might have met him at Guns Out, but we literally can go from, like I said, we play every spectrum of the mild to the wild, right? Like an all black gun is what somebody wants, and that's fine. Or if, like you, I want something that, you know, is just completely out of this world bonkers. I don't even know if there'd be another one like it, and we're working on something like that for you now. And hopefully we pull that off. So it's like,
Can't wait.
it just depends, man. Like, I think a lot of our success comes from not being locked into just the gun world and looking at other different cultures outside of it to pull into our culture when
You
it
know what?
comes to the design aspect of stuff.
What I appreciate about you, and there are a few other guys like this in the industry in terms of customization, like Eli Urian, I think is how it's pronounced.
Yep.
He'll do this kind of stuff too. And there's I'm blanking on the name. Scalpel Arms is a buddy of mine that used to do this quite a bit. When you go to guys like you and you say, I'm not really sure what I want. I want it to be XYZ, and you just like spit out some ideas, and then you're the type of person, your team as well. You guys can put your heads together and come up with something crazy. Because a lot of times, you know, I think the general public doesn't necessarily know what they want. They see cool shit on Instagram, and they're like, "That looks cool. Can I do something like that? Sort of different, like a tattoo artist almost."
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's like I call it a sixth sense, right? Me and I think Taylor have it where we can literally look at things outside the box and figure out a different way or solution to get to the, to get there, right? So, and you're right, a majority of people do not know what they want, or they just follow what they see and what they, what they like. There's more multicams and single color guns moving through our building than there is wild shit, right? So and our best work is normally, here, I trust you, this is the direction, but I do your thing. And normally when they let us kind of go free on it is when things get real. So like, or if we're like, hey, I understand what you're doing, but let's do it this way. We literally had a guy that sent in his MMP for a like Doom Eternal theme, but he had kind of like not a very good plan for it. And I called him like, hey, this is the way I want to go with it. Are you cool with it? And he said yes. And it freaking came out crazy. Like, just imagine like Doom Slayer on an MMP. That's what like we came up with. It was sick. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, like, that's just the thing. Like, we can pull from any genre, anything, at least on the paint side, and make it happen on the gun. From there, all the functional modifications are kind of stuck where they're stuck and are where they are based off of our testing and data and all that other stuff, because we don't just poke holes into shit. We actually gather some information. Believe it or not, like, the 10 millimeter is on the more extreme side of things, and we have different applications and different avenues for what the customer is looking to do with the gun.
Yeah, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish? Let's go from there. And
right.
Yeah.
Because you're the enthusiast, right? If they're going to send in a gun or a 10 millimeter and port it because they want it to shoot laser beam flat and feel amazing in their hands, then that's their MO for it. And they're like, I'm literally going to shoot this at the range and matches and stuff. Cool. Mission accomplished. If you're more towards, hey, I want to use this tool to defend my life or something, that's a deep conversation that we always have with people, because I can't make that decision for you as far as the things that we're going to do for this gun. Is it going to fit your needs for an EDC gun? I don't think for me, that is a conversation that should be taken lightly. And every time I tell someone, I was like, you need to make the decision on if you want to carry a ported gun for XYZ reason. You, as the person making this decision, needs to gather the information, the data, to make sure it's going to do what you want it to do at close range, long distance, etc. Functionality wise, is it going to work for you as an EDC gun? and you need to make the decision if you want to stick that in your pants. And then after I say that to them, I tell them I personally carry one of our ported guns. You make the decision. I think that's the more proper way to go around that conversation, especially for what we're doing, because at the end of the day, we're still modifying guns. And what they do with that gun outside of when it leaves these walls is up to that person.
Sure.
And then my conscience is kind of clear, if that makes sense.
Have you heard the idea that, like, you know, carrying a modified gun is a bad idea? Have you heard that? What's your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously you carry one, but
yeah. So obviously I'm not a lawyer, and that's the other thing that we tell people. We're not lawyers. If you have a lawyer to consult them about that and do your own homework across the states you live in and everything, because I don't know as far as the ramifications of getting into an altercation with a modified handgun.
Sure.
And what dictates that, because technically a stock Glock 17 or 19 with a ghost connector is technically modified. Are you
Right.
going to get in trouble for that? I don't know. A Glock 17C or 19C is a ported factory gun. Are you going to get in trouble for that? I don't know. For me, a modified gun is, and again, if everything fits my parameters, to carry it and to save my life or the people that I love's life in any situation. If it's going to give me the edge, I don't fucking care. If it turns into a gunfight, I'm going to cheat in any way that I can. And if that means that I have a USPSA style race gun in my pants that I can pull out and implement in the same way that I would a match at Mach Jesus speed with Mach Jesus accuracy, because the gun's tuned to run that way, I'll deal with the ramifications later if I'm alive, right? So I think it's a decision on the person carrying it, and if it's going to fit their needs because it is modified. You're hoping that the gun's going to work every time, and all the other stuff that it's supposed to do non-modified will work for you. And that's, again, a very deep conversation to have with a human, because like they're asking you, hey, is this tool going to be good enough to save my life? I don't know. Is it?
Right.
That's up to you. But for me, I think it does, and I carry one every day that I modified, that is something that you can get done here and use. So
you talked about it. What do you carry?
I carry a Staccato P with our Genghis comp, and then obviously the grip is stippled because that's just the way it is. So 2011, basically. It's a 2019 Staccato P, so it was the Staccato before STI, or before Staccato took over STI.
I see.
So it's the 4.1 inch or 4.15 inch gun. So it's a little bit shorter than the 4.4 inch Staccato that you sent me. Full dust cover, just like the gun that they should have kept making and didn't, but then came out with the Staccato P Heritage, which is a reboot of that gun, with a couple of changes. So that's what I carry pretty much. I have been using for anything and everything shooting related. That's the gun. That's the lightsaber.
So for anyone that doesn't know, what's the Genghis comp?
The Genghis comp is specifically for the 2011 lineup, specifically originally for the Staccatos. We have since branched out to other guns as long as it meets a certain parameter of measurement. And to my knowledge, again, it's the first true integrally comped barrel on a gun. So it's not like a port where we're just drilling through the top and making a slot or whatever and everything. We're actually machining an expansion chamber into the barrel, because the barrel allows us to do that. So
I did not realize that.
Yeah, when you get it, you'll see it. So that's where the big innovation for us came from. It was like what we were kind of known for back in 2019, 2020 was we did our chunk port on the Staccato first. And it's a very crude version of what we have now. And then listening to the customer base, they were like, hey, I wish it looked a little more OEM because it was very crude. Hey, this needs to happen, that needs to happen. And then the Genghis comp was born, and then we launched that in 2020. And it did very well. It still does very well. It's one of our best-selling services and we kind of cornered the 2011 market with that, and along with all the other stuff that we do to staccatos, because at the end of the day, it's a very expensive pistol for most people. So for the average person to be like, I want to go send this out and get it machined and get it painted and get it stippled, who can I trust to do that? In my opinion, there's only two shops, us and then Vulcan Machine Works.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. There's a lot of other people doing it out there. Jeremy and I have been doing it for a while, and I think a lot of people see that. So the amount of 2011 traffic we get is pretty high. But again, long-winded answer, we actually machined a comp floor into the staccato barrel, which, acts the way it's supposed to act, and keeps the gun super accurate, and basically adds a compensator to a gun without adding an extra inch to 2 inches to it. So
I think that's pretty handy, especially when you're like locked into it. Like, let's say you already have a holster for said gun. You don't want to add anything to the front end. That's neat. I mean, people will see the gun you're doing for me. I'll make sure I get a whole bunch of content on that. But
yeah, and yours is a little bit more on the racy side. So you have the GMGK, which is still a great option. But again, my background in the shooting that I have done over the years has kind of led me down that road of teetering where I'm at. So
when did you start shooting? Because I watched you, and holy shit, dude.
Yeah, so my shooting journey outside of your typical go to the range, shoot in a lane kind of stuff started in 2016. I went to a local club that I was a member of in Ohio.
How old were you at this point?
25, right?
Question mark, upward inflection?
25. I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
Early to mid 20s.
All right.
It was just a small little local, conservation club is what it was, right? And they just happened to do, trap and stuff like that, sporting clays. That's where I told you that's where I started shooting sporting clays at.
Hell yeah.
Got real interested into what everything was going on there and got immersed into shooting clays. And then every third Sunday they did a IDPA style-ish match. And then I started first match I shot there from my Kydex bender at the time. He's like, hey, come shoot this match. Went and shot it, instantly hooked. And I was into the practical world from then on to now. If I wasn't moving around and shooting with a gun, it didn't interest me too much, right? At least with a pistol. Going to a static indoor range, I haven't been to one since then, I don't think. Other than maybe with a family member, but not on my own. Like, hey, I'm going to go to the range and shoot at a piece of paper in an aisle. Like, that doesn't really do it for me anymore. So, from 2016 to now, I've been more in that practical world, USPSA, IDPA Steel Challenge, your typical shooting sports that involve shooting and moving and reloads and draws and stuff like that. So
I'm going to tell the audience a story. And it was the day my eyes were opened, was the same day I learned about a Bosco stick, actually. So we're at this event out at the gun camp outside of Chicago. Shout out to those guys. Great guys. And there was a little competition that had been set up by our friends at, I think Phoenix Trinity was running that, right? That was like their thing.
Yeah,
or we pretty much do it together.
No, Phoenix Trinity ran it. We pretty much stayed over there the whole day.
Yeah, we hung out with them the whole day.
Yeah.
So it's like a little shooting stage, right? And here comes Vinny, who isn't dressed. He doesn't appear like your typical competition douche. And we had Tony and Jackie on the show not super long ago. They were standing there and they watched this happen as well. And there were a bunch of guys that fancy themselves as competition shooters watching this happen. And, it's like watching the neighborhood dads when somebody else is mowing the lawn. They stand around with their hands on their hips like, oh, yeah, he's doing a good job, that sort of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched Vinny get up there and just clean house. Just you're not a small dude. You're not a tiny guy, but you move like you're a freaking running back or something. Like I don't understand how you move like that, but you're moving quickly, you're incredibly accurate, and you clean house. And I'm pretty sure you won that whole competition against like a stack of all these guys that think they're hot shit.
Yeah, so I mean that was
I like
I
that. Yeah.
I did win. I took the grip home because the competition was the fastest, cleanest time. Got to take the grip home. And the funny thing was is they were allowed to shoot it multiple times. I only had
And
to
still
shoot.
couldn't beat him.
I only shot it once and kept the time where I wanted to. So yeah, I showed up, shot it from concealment. You know, like you said, not your typical, you know, Jersey guy. I've never been that way. So
Thank Christ.
funny enough, you know, I have a team of guys that shoot for us. We sponsor them, right? So we help pay for major matches and any equipment needs that they need for their shooting journey. And they rep, you know, the brand very well. And those are our Jersey guys. Those are the guys that spend money every year to go across the country to shoot major matches with Team Monsoon around, you know, against their back on across their shoulder blades. And I told them, they were like, "Do you want a jersey?" I'm like, "You can buy me one, but I'm never gonna wear it." I've never been a guy that would put on a jersey to go shoot a match. And it was probably 3-ish years ago when I decided I'm going to shoot everything from concealment because that makes the most sense for me. Slowly getting back into wanting to shoot competition from an outside waistband rig, but that's only if I spend the money on a gun that dictates I need to do that. But yeah, man, I've been shooting competitions. I've been around for a while. And I think personally across the board, not just for me, but for anyone in our industry, if the owner operator can fucking shoot, it helps the brand. It helps drive innovation because those guys know what they need, what they want as a shooter. And it just so happens to be that they're in the industry running a gun business, right? So
I actually said something similar to that on LinkedIn a while back, and I got met with a bunch of resistance. I was like, it blows my mind that the people running gun companies don't fucking shoot. They don't care.
there's a lot of them, right? And I'm not saying you have to be an amazing shooter to run a good gun business. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that it helps. There's credibility there. I mean, there's a handful of guys off the top of my head right now that I can think of that are running businesses in different aspects of the gun industry that can shoot, right? You have Jared from Tier 1 Concealed and all of his guys, phenomenal shooters. Roger Brer at QVO
Roger's
Holsters,
great. Yeah.
phenomenal shooter. John Keys at Guns Out, different kind of part of the industry, but can also shoot. Like, and we're all at different levels of being good shooters, right? There's different levels of a good shooter. Like for you would probably clean house in clays against me, and I could probably clean house against you in a practical pistol stage. Like
I think the thing about me is like I have to be okay at everything.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of people, that was like the old, you know, master of all weapon craft, right? If you can shoot, you can shoot. Like, I'm not saying you can't shoot anything else, but like there are definitely different aspects of shooting that people thrive better in. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
and from what I can tell, like you are a big clays guy, so I can probably bet you just fucking can clean house in clays. But also in your line of work, you do have to be able to shoot. You can't give honest, good reviews or information if you can't shoot the gun, right? Like, oh, this gun's not accurate, but I'm not accurate, right?
Dude. Oh man, the accuracy thing is a whole nother topic, but you're not wrong. Like I favor clays over most things. Like I just enjoy it more.
Yeah.
But like I still have to be decent with a fucking handgun, decent with a rifle.
And I've seen your videos and you are like, that's what I'm getting at. Like the levels of being a good shooter are so broad, right? That I think that helps the credibility of whatever you're trying to do in the industry.
I agree.
A lot of the people that are just like, yeah, I sell this product, but I have no idea how to use it in any high performance way. But I'm marketing it as that, and I'm selling it as that. I'm like, okay, you
Like,
know, and
okay, bud, let me know how that works out.
and there's a reason too. Like a lot of these bigger guys are consulting shooters. It doesn't. You
What
don't
do you mean
see.
by that?
I mean, think about, you know, um, what's a good example of this? Long time ago, um, this is the most best way I can explain it, but I
Sure.
know it's happening everywhere else. So STI, right?
Mhm.
Now Staccato was getting with like Chris Costa and
Yeah,
coming out with the Costa comp because he's like, this is what I want to see in a gun. Okay, we'll build you that. And they build that gun for him. And like, I feel like that a lot of that is happening. Like Max Michelle with SIG, I'm sure has plenty of input in the shit that they're making,
sure.
100%.
Yeah.
So they are going to these high level guys in the field using these things and saying, how would you build this? Because they're not necessarily the guy that's going to be like, I know how to build it and I'm going to build it. They're like, I know how to pull the trigger and put a front sight or a red dot on a target and pull the trigger really fast, very accurately. And this is what I would want a product. And they're like, Roger that. We'll go make it for you. So I think a lot of the bigger companies and even some smaller companies are consulting shooters to get ideas on how to innovate their product or create new product that's innovative.
I mean, I get asked, and I'm sure you get asked, like, what's coming? What's next in the gun industry? You know, so I find that it's kind of like cart before the horse a lot of times.
Mhm.
I think companies move so slowly it doesn't matter what's coming next.
Right.
What keeps you guys nimble and able to stay on the edge of, because it seems like you're sort of leading the charge. So how do you stay there?
So we have, like, again, a lot of our stuff that's already available that we're doing, and we just keep perfecting our craft, right? And what we're trying to do, and like probably the same reason why people ask you, is you have a pulse on the industry. You're thinking outside the scope of what you're doing. And not only am I paying attention to what we're doing in our business, I'm also paying attention to what is out there in the industry and what's hot. And it's just like, how it is. There's always the next hot striker fired polymer handgun coming out, next month, and it drops, and it either does well or it doesn't. And we look at it and we're like, this is probably a gun we should pay attention to and figure out how to make it look better and run better. And we make that move and make it available for people. So like for us, we are, we've been called the gunsmith for the people, right? We don't
All right, I like that.
necessarily constrict ourselves to one platform.
Hmm.
We are open to all and everything. I don't care what it is, right? We've had so many wide variety of brands and styles come through the shop, and we are able to apply our taste and culture to it for that customer. So I think that's what keeps us kind of in front, if you want to say that, or relevant, right? Or continuing to thrive in the industry, is we're willing to push the envelope on everything
Okay,
that comes out.
so the real question is, how many high points have you done?
2.
2? All right, you
2.
want a third?
Sure.
All right,
We'll do a third.
I just got you can't see it very well, but I just got a couple new
Yeet cannons.
Yeah, I got 2 of them. I got a black one and one in M81. 81's going to stay, but the black one, can't be boring.
Yeah.
You got to do
So
something.
we did one for AIM Surplus.
Of
We
course.
put
Of
an arm.
course.
Yeah, we put an RMR on it and
I've
ported
seen that gun. I saw it. I remember now.
Yeah, we did that one.
Okay.
And then I did one for myself, and it's somewhere around here. I finished it, and then I bastardized it and tore it apart. That one was a little wild. Put a red dot on it, and then I took a CZ Scorpion Evo PCC gun. You know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
The grip on that, I had an extra one laying around, and it just so happened to be a nice fit. and I cut the base of the grip off, and JB welded it to the bottom of the grip for a magwell, and I had a magwell on a high point.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah,
JB Weld.
I'll try to find you a picture of it later on and send it to you. But it was pretty ridiculous. So,
Shenanigans.
Yeah, again, just because I can and I want to, right? So, but yeah, I mean, we don't care as long as we understand what it's for, right? So,
well, I let Steve from Mad Pig Customs. I sent him like an old school C9 high point, and I said, I want this to be stupid. Just have fun with it, right? Well, he sends it back. Not only is it like rainbow camo, but it's got my face in the camo. Like he had laser cut stickers of my face in the shit. It's one of the dumbest guns I own. But that, I mean, you kind of have to when you're modifying a high point. Also, just for the record, every time I mention a high point, I call the slide cast iron because it pisses off Dave, and it's really fucking fun to mess with Dave. I love him.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not fucking cast iron.
I ran into him at ORD, I think. I'll have to be like, yo, bro, because he's like, I got a yeet cannon for you. It's sitting there. I got to send it to you. And I'm like, okay, whenever.
Yeah, that's what I had to do to get mine.
And he's like, because we talked about it a long time ago. It's like, get me one of them new yeet cannons, man. I want to play with it and make it ridiculous. It's like, all right, yeah, I got you. So, and I ran into him. So next time I see him, I'll be like, yo, where my cast iron at?
Yes. Yeah. Spread that hate.
We'll just spread the hate.
So there have been an enormous amount of good guns in the last like 5 years. Like really legitimately good factory guns. There's been a lot of garbage, but a lot of good guns as well. What are the ones that like come to mind right now that are the guns you see and you're like, we can do something with that? Like, what are the ones you're excited about messing with right now?
Man, again, kind of talking about trying to have as good as a pulse on that side of the industry like you do. I'm not 100% like in tune with what's coming out at any given time.
Sure. That's why my show exists.
Yeah. Like 60-second gun news. That's probably one of my favorite bits that you do, because you know, all of the information that you're pumping out is always good to see. So every time you come, I was like, what is new that I don't know is out yet?
Let's hear John shout about it.
Yeah. So man, I don't know.
What about like a Walther PDP? What are your thoughts on that?
So funny enough, we actually just modified the new PDP PMM comp.
Oh,
yeah, for our buddy Chris over at Vortex.
Okay.
And actually, Jared at Parker Mountain and I are pretty good buddies. We align very well with each other, and we had talked about doing more of a collaborative thing together, and this is kind of like a little bit of a tester / catalyst for that.
Sure.
So we ported a comped gun and then stippled it. So the PDP to me is a very interesting gun. You know, history lessons aside, it's just a modern PPQ / P99. You know, the technology that Walther has is one of them things where the P99 was kind of ahead of its time. So now we have the PDP. And it's a very popular gun that we modified because we also have a relationship with Scott Jetlinski over at Modern Samurai Project. So we get a lot of PDPs in. I love working on the PDP. Smith & Wesson has been surprising the hell out of me.
Sure.
Funny enough, I have a weird love affair with 380 Auto, and when the
Bodyguard
2.0 came out, I got my hands on it, and it's pretty fucking interesting. And I may or may not be putting a red dot on one.
Okay, if you do that, like I'm waiting on one. I think Brownells is going to send me one at some point because they're bros. I'm 100% going to send it to you for that.
Yeah,
at least that if you're not doing some kind of chunk port or whatever the hell on that, Because
Yeah.
good God, that would be amazing. That gun surprised the fucking hell out of me.
So that, yeah, I immediately when you said what gun is surprised you the most, that gun has. And it's funny, funny that that's kind of the same thing a lot of people are saying, and
Yeah.
it's not bullshit. And like I said, I have a very weird love affair with 380 auto across the board. I from time to time carry a PPK because I like the idea of a small gun.
Sure.
And the fact that they were able to make that gun shoot and handle the way it is ridiculous.
I was blown away because the Bodyguard 380, the old Bodyguard with the built-in laser, was a pile of dog shit.
Yes.
It was an absolute pile. I've never seen guns lock up harder than that. You know, the you get a little bit of oil in the laser, it'll fucking break. It was garbage.
And the funny thing enough is I owned 2 of those back in the day. I used to pocket carry a Bodyguard 380.
That does not surprise me about you.
No, like I said, man, we all go through that different journey of things. And when I was like that, hell yeah, brother, the world's out to get me, I carried 2 guns and 4 spare mags and 3 pocket knives. And
hell yes. Did you wear a kilt at the same time?
No, I wasn't that. I still looked kind of dressed like a normal person, but I did carry a lot of kit in my early days of concealed carry.
That's very funny.
A Bodyguard 380 definitely rode in the back pocket a lot in my younger days of carrying a gun.
So now the 2.0 comes out, and what is your first thought when you see it? Like before you shoot one, what'd you think?
I was like, that's interesting. It looks nothing like the original guns at all.
Right.
It looks bigger, but surprisingly, it's not for some weird reason. Well, let me take that back. It is bigger in hand, right? Because the original one was like I think you could barely get a pinky on it with a mag in it. So it's a little bit
had
bigger.
To have that extended mag.
It's a little bit bigger than the original, but not much. And the fucking thing holds 10 rounds or 12 rounds of 380.
Something like that.
And it shoots nothing like the original, but like it doesn't shoot like any 380 pocket gun I've ever shot. It's ridiculous.
Agreed. Agreed. I don't know how they pulled it off, honestly, because that gun had leaked in USCCA magazine, and I put it on the news going, look at this. Yeah. This gun, and nobody was talking about it because that mag wasn't supposed to be out or some shit. Yeah. But I was like, look at it, and I thought it was a 9mm. Like looking at it in images, it doesn't make sense how small it actually is.
Right.
Like that slide's like 3/4 of an inch wide. It's tiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, seeing it online, because me and you actually looked at it at
that's right. We were messing with it at XCal. Yeah. I forgot we were together at that. Yeah.
That was the first time I put my hands on one. I'm like, this thing's small. It looked bigger in the videos. It always does, right? So I'm like, how are we going to get a red dot on this? And I'm like, okay, looks like we have to revisit the James Reeves 1903 and cut more of the plates that we made for that gun. And we're trying to be careful because as soon as we do this, we know that everyone is going to want to do it. And the problem is going to be the plate, and we're looking for manufacturers to be able to make those in bulk for us. But it's a proprietary plate that we designed and a proprietary optic cut to basically put 507 K RMSC footprint.
That was my next question. Yeah,
on a super small fucking gun. So, and luckily enough, there's one more math problem that I have to solve, which won't be hard, but we'll be able to bury a 507K on that gun.
You said bury, like get it down into the slide a little bit.
It'll be deep, because there's nothing on it as long as we don't hit the firing pin channel. In the way that we made the plate, there's nothing in the way for us to make that dot sit decently low. So it's not going to be like, a dovetail mount where it's like space and looks ugly. Like this plate is going to conform to the slide and looks like it belongs there.
Wilson Combat has done a good job of that on like the EDCX9.
Yep.
There's like this like sort of flare out to support the RMR size. So I'll be real interested to see what your execution is on this.
Yeah, I mean I have 3 of the plates made now. And And again, I'll show you some pictures of that later.
Sure.
But
I can see
it'll,
it.
yeah, it'll fit on the new bodyguard.
So, are there going to be? Do you anticipate any issues with cycling with all that added weight? Because it was never meant to have an optic on it.
I don't think we'll run into any issues. Again, we're gonna cut it and test it and find out and see. Obviously, when we start using range ammo, that's variable because range ammo is trash. We
Yes,
start
it
putting
is.
hotter 380 through it. May not be any issues. The one thing I did notice, it stock configuration with my freaking bear paws and the way that I grip a gun normally, I can stop that gun from working just from gripping it the way I normally would.
Okay.
So I have to change my grip a little bit anyway. Otherwise, that gun is so small that I engulf the whole thing. That any inboard pressure with my support hand on that slide stovepipes it every time. So
That's interesting.
maybe the slide, it might actually have the adverse effect, and the extra weight might help with cycling.
I see.
As far as driving the round back into battery.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we'll see. Again, like that's the things that we do here. If we get a wild idea, we want to make sure it's going to work. But I don't see why that little minute amount of weight is going to cause any problems. So,
I think that is an excellent tiny carry gun.
yeah.
Especially like I'm a big fan. I don't know if I haven't really talked about this a ton, but like I was around for the development and some of the execution of the Lehigh bullets, like
Okay.
the XD, the XP. I helped them market that significantly. Like all of the videos with like Military Arms and Iraq Vet and some of the other guys, I was running the high speed camera for them.
Okay.
So, like I've seen what that bullet is capable of.
Yeah.
And then you have Kevin Underwood load it and it's smoking hot coming out of one of those. To me, that is the only bullet to carry for 380, and coming out of something like that legitimately gets me excited about that combo. That gets
Yeah,
me
and I mean like there's just like, again, that's the kind of the thing. Like we put a dot on it. It may or may not be a good pocket pistol anymore, obviously, because now you have a dot that you have to try to get out of your pocket.
Sure, yeah.
We'll see. Roger at QVO came out with a cool pocket holster. We'll try and play with it.
Yeah.
Even then, right? Like if we have to resort to a 380 in the waistband, bro, that it's not gonna be there. Like it's such a small, comfortable gun in the waistband, probably, that it's like the older I get, the more comfortable I want to be. Call it lazy, whatever way you want to call it. But like sometimes I don't feel like throwing my staccato on just to go get something. And again, I've always the caliber debate on a self-defense gun, like, let me shoot you with it. No. Okay, cool. Then it's lethal enough. If you don't want me to shoot you with it, then it's okay. My capabilities, again, stemming back to your capabilities as a shooter, if I have 12 rounds of 380 auto that I can stack on top of somebody, okay. I think we don't have to argue about it. So you're right. Like that, the way that gun shoots in conjunction with it holding a lot of bullets for its size, it's an interesting piece.
Agreed.
So we're going to take it to the max. I do want to port it like a small comp port in the front, and then with a dot, it's going to be a laser beam like carry gun. So
I suspect, based on the way Smith & Wesson has released products in the past, I suspect there's a performance center version with a tiny little comp like they did on the Easy. Yeah. Yep. I bet money that's coming.
I wouldn't disagree with you, but we're going to do it first.
Well, the thing is, you could end up doing it better.
Yeah.
Like if it's a different implementation, it could be a better solution. I don't know.
It just depends, because if they do the small, because their solution for that was the barrel extended past the slide and it had a little comp cut in it.
It was not the most effective comp.
Right. So and again, stemming back to their new carry comp models, Tier 1 actually did a comparison video of our chunk port versus their carry comp, and there are homies and stuff, but they also do pretty good non-biased reviews and stuff. And they're like, yeah, you can definitely feel a difference between the two. They go, and I get it because they're a manufacturer, right? Everything that they're doing, it has to work. So they're a little more conservative on the porting side.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because their port on their carry comps are tiny in comparison to what we're doing. So there's a little bit of a balance there. You don't want to have a massive freaking hole. Actually, there's a point where it becomes a problem. But Max finding that sweet spot, like I think we have, just gives you that little extra boost of performance that's noticeable. So, plus you got to keep the guns accurate. So when we go to do this on the bodyguard, it'll be interesting to see. If I'm being completely honest, it doesn't need ported, but I want to do it.
sure. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just shoots that great. Like it really does. It shoots not quite like a 22, maybe 22 mag ish, maybe. And that's stretching it, but it's its own experience. Okay. It's like shooting a Beretta 80X or something. A bigger metal framed 380, but it's tiny and it's plastic. So it's kind of, I don't know how they did it. I really don't.
And again, it's like $400 or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Smith and Wesson has been impressing me with the M&P 2.0 has been around for a little while, but I still think that's a very underrated striker gun.
I don't disagree. They've done a very good job in terms of like what they're releasing, with the exception of a few question marks. Like the shotgun is a big fucking question mark.
Mm-hmm.
The side folding carbine thing that nobody asked for, that's a question mark. I feel like that was a project an engineer just got through to the end, and everybody's like, well, fuck it, let's release it. The backpack guns are a whole nother argument. There is something I want to, before we, have to split. You said something earlier that I want to touch on. You said we primarily do handguns. Does that mean you're going to start fucking with rifles and shotguns soon?
So we're willing to, like me and Zach always talk about the direction that Monsoon's going to go, right? And my main background comes from pistol smithing and stuff like that, because it's our main lifeline as civilians is what we're going to have on us at any given time, right?
Sure.
And to me, the pistol as a platform intrigues me the most because it's the hardest one to master. I think a lot of people would agree with that from a fundamental standpoint. We're shooters at the end of the day, and Zach is more into the long range stuff nowadays. And he's like, I would love to get into bolt guns. Shotguns would be a very easy transition to get into if we wanted to spend some time in that realm. I really don't know what we're going to branch out to. I know that we mainly want to get into not so much the manufacturing side yet until it makes sense, but we definitely want to get into the product development side and farm that out and find some, like a buddy in the industry that we know that has the capability to manufacture our IP, because we have a lot of good ideas that we think can aid in the industry for what we're doing. So to answer your question, I really don't know. If you brought us something, we could definitely work on it, and we have. I just think that we're most known for working on handguns, so that's what we see the most of, right? So we definitely have had people like, hey, here's my rifle, I want to Cerakote it. And ARs and stuff like that are kind of one of them things where and this more better than anyone, like an AR is an AR, an AR. An AR is an AR is an AR until you start getting into the billet side of things and a couple nuanced stuff. Like we actually saw something super sick at a range day that I've never seen before on an AR before, and it was like, this is fucking cool. When is this going to be a thing? And you start getting into the more bougie side of things. I don't know if we're going to go that way because there's just so much people doing rifles.
There's a lot of noise.
That it's just like, I'm a big believer of staying in our lane and branching off on the rest stops where it makes sense, but pulling a complete 180 and going a direction isn't really in our future right now.
I have a 590S with some Wooks furniture on it. I think that would be an interesting thing to see what your brain comes up with playing with that.
Yeah, so I mean, like Cerakoting shotguns, porting shotguns, stuff
Sure.
like that. That would be something that I would probably be the easiest transition for us as far as like, hey, we're known for porting barrels. What can we do on that side of the shotgun house and make that kind of cool? You know, because there's really only one company that I can think of right off rip that does shotgun stuff, Van Comp, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
um,
I've got a couple of them. I waited absolutely effing forever
yeah.
to get it.
So it's like,
It's good work, but it just like they were slow as fuck.
yeah. And I'm comfortable to say that the amount of talent that we have on over here, we could do whatever we wanted. But again, from a business perspective, I don't think it makes sense to veer for what we're
Sure.
known for and what we're pouring all of ourselves into. Um, that being said, a lot of it can translate over into any platform from the design standpoint of things, and I'd be into that. But as far as expanding the capabilities on branching out into other weapon systems and making them better, I'm not 100% sure that we're going to go that route because, again, if you want stuff done to a bolt gun or a shotgun, you're going to go find an expert. And I feel like that's where we are, as we're the more of the experts in the pistol field for
Sure.
us.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's why when I have an idea, I go, "Hey, Vinny,
Yeah.
can we do blank? What do you think of this?"
Hmm.
And now you've got my staccato. I was pointing at other stuff that I'd like to send to you. The list is getting deeper, and at a certain point, it's gonna be fucking silly. I look forward to a time when you guys are doing like a signature model for
Hmm.
a big company because
Yep.
I think that would be fucking rad. Is that something you've talked about with anybody?
We've already been kind of working with people. You kind of touched on it once. We worked with Lone Wolf. That batch of guns did very well, and we're going to do a second run with them. Um, a couple
That's right.
other
I
people,
forgot about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
yeah,
loan
a
ones.
couple
Yeah,
other decently big places that I'm not going to say until it becomes a thing. We're working with right now and kind of filling that out. So there's a lot of other manufacturers, and funny enough, the I feel like the culture is shifting slightly because the gun industry is known for eating their own, but I feel like there's a lot of younger guys coming in that are seeing it differently, and I'm one of those people where I'm like, if we line up together and we're doing very similar things, there's plenty of market for everyone, right? And if there's something that you do and something that I do, and we cross pollinate and brand together, I think that's more beneficial than fighting each other over the internet and trying to one up each other. Come together and do something cool. And we've been doing that more often than not with a bunch of other people. So um, that, and again, like Parker Mountain Machine, Jared over there and their guys, they just got in bed with Walther. Fucking,
yep.
that's sweet. You know, I could see that happening with us at some point, potentially with someone, or even building our own pistol. That's something I think is more on the horizon than anything. What direction we go with that, not 100% sure yet. A
As long as it's
2011.
not like 9 fucking grand, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, we're a 2011 project is kind of in the works, and that's more on the selfish side for me. Not really something that I think I'm going to make a big thing because we're not going to build the whole entire pistol, right? We're going to get a actual master gunsmith involved to help fit all the parts and do it the right way. And then we're going to design it. We're going to do all the other machining and stuff to it that we would do and build a pistol and do very limited runs of it. And it's going to be decently expensive because of time, material, and costs. But it's not going to be something that is going to be like, hey, this is going to be available at any given time. We might do 5, we might do 10. If you're interested, here they are. You know,
Sure.
it's one of them things where unfortunately if you don't understand the 2011 space, like, why is that so expensive? It's like, well, just to get a slide frame and all the parts, you're looking at $2,500 in raw material. So then you start to factor in other things. That's why a gun can become $5, $6, $7 grand. The one that we're going to build probably isn't going to go over 5, if I had to guess. And
that's still
just
very fucking expensive. That's
it
very
is
expensive.
It is. But
well, I look forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Obviously it's all speculative right now.
Yep.
Because you're not there.
It
but
could just be like I'm build one and I show everyone like, fuck you don't get it. But again, if we do kind of go that way, because we're kind of teetering on that agency arms route, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Another, a guy that we talked to, really cool dude over at agency, and they started out the same way we did a long time ago, and kind of helped pave the way a little bit. And the only way to get an agency gun really is through distribution through other places. And we have slowly done more of that this year, where we're building stock Monsoon, OEM modified guns for people to resell in their stores.
Sure. Yeah. That's cool.
So that's
exciting,
thing,
man.
And it could be one of them things where we come up with a signature series of our own that we sell. That's a stock gun, but it could also turn into something that's its own. I don't know. I got a lot of crazy ideas up here, so
I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited for the future for you. Maybe we'll be able to look back in a few years and be like, look at that, like look at the ideas you had back then and look at where you're at now.
Yeah.
I met Michael Parks from agency very, very early on, and I've got one of the first long slide 10 mils. I think the first they ever did was my gun. And to be able to do that and see something similar or even better or different from Monsoon Tactical would be fucking rad. Is there anything you want to say before we bounce?
No, man. I think the conversations we had were great. I always love just, non-scripted, shooting the shit with a buddy in the industry and kind of getting a feel for what you're seeing and what we're seeing, and being in front of your audience and bringing some value for you. So I really appreciate you having me on, man.
I'm fucking pumped. I hope more people check out what you're doing because I love it. I think you've got an eye of really, really creative and interesting guns, and I cannot wait to see more come out of that. So thank you, Vinny. Of course, guys listening, watching, be sure to check out the sponsors, Camorado and Vertx. The code at both of those is TGC, Camorado.com, VERTX, Vertex.com. Check it out. We appreciate you. And as always, thank you all for listening, watching. We'll see you soon.